Michigan 49, Nebraska 46. This is after Nebrasketball, I-80 Club, and Husker Max. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube station channels or whatever on YouTube so you can see more fun programming like this. Caleb Henry joins me. He's to my right on your screen. We're going to talk about the game that just happened. We just did like 7 minutes of a show. I didn't press record, so the night continues to be miserable. Caleb, you've got a pretty big delay too tonight, but I will just shut up and let you talk about this like you just did off the air in your practice run. Yeah, big delay.
Okay, yeah, it was ugly. It was very, very ugly for any stretch of the game that anybody tuned in at all. And neither team shot over 30%. Neither team could find a way to separate to take advantage of the other team shooting very, very poorly. Nebraska was really soft and kind of lazy with the basketball early. You had 3 steals for Michigan early on. Nebraska kind of cleaned that up a little bit. But both teams turn it over double-digit times. Neither team finds a way to really separate themselves. If you're Nebraska, thank God you have Bryce Williams, who's the only guy to score more than 6 points, game high 26. Remove him from all of your shooting categories, and it is insanely worse, even though Nebraska only shot 25% for the game, 6 of 28 from deep. And if you remove one guy, all of that probably drops around 10%, if that. It was so bad. But even with all of that, Jack, you had an opportunity, multiple opportunities in the second half. You cut it back to 1 point with 1.5 minutes to go. You had chances to retake the lead. Can't get it done with the shots. You get the free throw shooting contest. Both teams make their 2. And then with 12 seconds to go, Michigan misses the front end of a 1-and-1, and you've got your chance with Bryce Williams, who's had a hell of a day, but he gets cut off in transition, flips it back to the Sejan, who at the time had missed all of his threes. He had one basket that he made. It wasn't on a 3. And in my head, I'm saying, no. I'm saying use one of your 2 timeouts. I know that's the Sejan's job, but you had Bryce Williams with the kind of game that he was having, and you had the 2 timeouts. It, to me, was slightly criminal that it wasn't Bryce taking whatever the shot was, however forced it would have been, drawing something up for him on an inbounds play. You don't get it, but you do get a foul to leave yourself enough time. Michigan makes both. Raleigh with an on-the-run heave that somehow finds Bearkay. And it was super, like, he was going to try to find a teammate, and there was just nobody open. So he actually got a pretty clean look at the buzzer, but he ends up 0 for 10 from the field because of that last miss, 0 for 6 from deep. If you're, like, that's to me is the disappointing part with this game, is that you had an amazing game from Bryce Williams, pretty all the way around. Only 1 turnover from him in all of this, only 1 foul. He played so well, and you just had nobody else really step up in a way to put this game over the top. You had the opportunities in the last couple of minutes to take the lead, to get a win, to get another signature win, get your school record for wins over ranked opponents on the season, to make yourself almost a lock, saying just get one of your last 3, or maybe even you just have to get one at the Big Ten tournament. But there was so much opportunity tonight, and it's disappointing in a way that I didn't expect on Friday, Jack, because we didn't know what kind of mentality Michigan was going to have. And for Nebraska to come in and ugly the crap out of this game and have all of those opportunities late, it's disappointing that it feels different than if it would have just been like a 10, 15-point game at the end and Michigan kind of slowly pulled away, because there were so many opportunities for this team to go take it, and they just didn't. They just didn't, and that's what it came down to.
Yeah. I don't have I mean, man, I heard other people say what you said about that shot with the Sejan. I was thrilled with that shot. That was honestly, that was one of the best setup 3-pointers they've had this year. Like, in terms of actually making a pass to an open 3, they haven't done that. That has not happened this year, and it's your best percentage 3-point shooter. And Bryce had just missed a key shot. Listen, Bryce is awesome. Obviously, carried Nebraska, but he did just miss a shot in the possession before. Right. So, I mean, I got no problem. I can't I can't fault that. God, all I bitch about is that they never set up players for three. They finally did. So I got no problem with that.
I know. Yeah, and like I said, Jay, like if it goes in, like of course, like if any player takes a shot and it goes in, great. Like even Bearcay at the buzzer that to force overtime, it would have been like great, wonderful. If Andrew Morgan hits a three, tremendous. I just the way the game had gone and how poor the shooting overall was. There was one guy on the floor that I wanted taking the shot, and in that situation, I know for a Sejan, other than he missed a wide open one in the first half, that's about as good of a look as he has gotten all Big Ten season. You know, like I completely understand. I don't think Fred is telling him that he shouldn't have taken that shot, nor do I think Fred should be telling him that he shouldn't take that shot. No. I'm just saying the way the game had played out, I would have liked as soon as Bryce got cut off for Fred to have taken the timeout and set something up. But yeah, it's absolute like 10 out of 10 times. I still get it. Connor should have taken that shot and he did.
Regardless, it's not the story of the game, really, even though we just spent some time on it. I just put that out. The story of the game. Well, I mean, let's be honest. Both teams played. Nebraska played really good defense, and Nebraska played horrendous, terrible offense. Nebraska missed shots. It was like the museum of missed shots for Nebraska because they did them in every imaginable way. There were just terrible drives. There were airballed end of the shot clock shots. There were wide open looks. There were good drives. There were unguarded shots. There was everything. It wasn't just like terrible shots always. It was every length. It was every level of defended. I mean, you name a type of shot, they missed it tonight. And like that's what the story is at the end of the night, beyond anything. And it wasn't about their effort tonight. They played hard. I loved how they played tonight. I thought there were a couple of guys who were playing at levels of intensity that I hadn't seen this year. Raleigh Wooster was one of them. You know, and they're just, if you're not hitting threes and you've got a team that is going to take away all of your big men, Andrew Morgan scoring basically, and any driving, you got no other way to score with this team. There's not enough offense on this team. You got to hit threes. You got to have guys hitting threes. And you have multiple guys hitting threes, and they didn't today. And their defense still somehow kept them in this game. The whole double the post and then chase, it worked. It was vintage that working tonight for Nebraska basketball, like it has against Creighton a couple of times. And I think they kind of got into a zone look a couple of times. It was working. The intensity on the rebound, while it didn't, I think they were a little behind in rebounds, but the effort and the intensity and rebounding were there. All of it was there. It was just that, you know, Michigan made one or two more shots than Nebraska did. Literally, they made one or two more shots. They had about the same percentage, but got a couple more shots. And they got just unbelievable calls throughout the night, all night by the officiating. And it's the last thing I said, so don't freaking put it in the paper that I said it first. I said a million things first, but the officiating was garbage. It was horrendous. It was so bad. And that freaking replay at the end, his thumb hit it. It was obvious. I had a high-ass definition TV right by me, and it went off his thumb. And those refs, whatever the crap they were doing, they stood there for a half hour on the one before and couldn't make a decision on it. Could have spent more time on that one, I would say. It was putrid officiating. It was putrid. But that wasn't the reason Nebraska lost the game, okay, everyone? That wasn't the reason. Jacob Bigelow, your thoughts?
Hi. Good to see you guys. Hello. That was yeah, I mean I don't want to like sound like everybody's therapist, but I mean obviously that hurts, that stings. It's, everything. I've seen a lot of disgusting shit in this building since the day it opened. And that was one that was near the top of the basketball, disgusting index for 40 minutes. But, I mean, you got to give credit to Nebraska for their defensive effort. That was the most – they were locked in from the jump defensively. Their communication was good. Their rotations were crisp. They were, flying around, held their own on the boards. I don't think I've ever seen a basketball game where there were almost as many total boards as there were points. There were 93 total rebounds in this game and 95 total points. I don't think I've ever seen anything close to that, even remotely, in all of the basketball that I've watched. And, Bryce Williams, we just heard from Fred. We heard from Dusty May, Fred Hoiberg, and then Bryce Williams. Bryce Williams just said, everybody has off nights. We just had a bunch of guys who had an off night on the same night. And they, the offense has been the question with this team since the beginning of the season. There were points in this season where I've openly said, we know they can guard, but can they score? And this was a game where when it counted the most, they could guard, but guys not named Bryce Williams couldn't score when it mattered. And, that was ultimately, the difference at the end. I mean, Michigan had, a perfect example is LJ Kaysen, who was 1 for 6 from the field. He just steps up. He's like, you know what? I'm going to just hit a 3 when it matters the most, and just can't. I mean, he canned one late. Donaldson canned one late. They just had dudes that stepped up and made shots, and Nebraska didn't at the end. And that's how you lose a game by 3. And, that continues a trend for Michigan where their last 8 wins have been by 4 points or fewer. They've found a way to keep winning these close games.
Caleb, any response, thoughts on what Jacob had to say there?
Yeah, it's like he said, it's really if you could get anyone other than Bryce, because he made 9 shots, the rest of the team made 7. Like that's I know that he's going to say all the right things. He's been a wonderful leader, but at some point you can't have everyone else on the team have a bad night. Somebody has to get something going. Juwan Gary, 0 for 5 from deep, 2 for 13 from the field. I was talking with I was sitting next to Bigelow. If you see 2 digits on the shot clock, I don't want Juwan Gary taking a 3. And there were a number of them he took with 15 to 20 seconds. And that's not a new thing.
Fred
it's a
didn't
thing
like
that we
it.
just continue to say. And especially, no, you could tell Fred didn't like it. You could tell times where like Braxton Mia sometimes he falls to the floor very easily. You saw Lenzer, you saw Hoiberg yelling at him to get back on defense on some of these things. Like there are a lot of things that they're going to be able to point to in what is going to be a not fun film session for this team. But one of those that we've looked at a lot and talked about ad nauseum is Juwan Gary shooting from 3. And you add in there that Berke one-upped him by taking 6 from deep. He double cocked one for no goddamn reason at one point with nobody trying to really block his shot. I don't understand some of the shots that were Raleigh Wooster late in the game with whatever he was trying to do. There were things that were working offensively for this team, even as bad as things were going. And you have guys at intermittent moments or all game decide that they're not going to be involved with whatever that is.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I will say is, I don't know. I think they would have been capable. This team was capable, and probably talking about more of a season making 3s. But boy, I don't know who else. Like that matchup with Michigan. It's not what usually the guy who's helping you in this situation is Andrew Morgan, guys, and they were too big. I mean, they were too big for Andrew Morgan. So that was the missing thing tonight. And then Asian maybe being the other one is making some outside shots. But I'm not sure who else anyone expected to be a big savior with points beyond that, because this team does not have that. And by the way, they generally don't. Even Bryce still isn't going to the rim very often. And there were a couple reasons for that. Again, Michigan size. And because the refs were not calling fouls on drives.
Right.
That was the game. That was the way that the game was officiated. So I don't know. Juwan wasn't going to get points unless he could somehow occasionally would slice in there and somehow get a layup up. But like the only 2 things I could see that didn't happen were Andrew Morgan and Asian, but Morgan was taken away. Like Nebraska doesn't have enough offense on this team. I don't know. Like in some ways, I'm surprised that it was as bad as it was. But in general, with this matchup, I'm not totally surprised by any of this.
Right. But even then, even with the fouls, even with it being tough to get a call inside, there were some absolute bunnies that were missed. Raleigh Wooster with a wide open layup.
That's true.
Jawan should have had at least 2 more makes inside. The Bear K just needs to hit a shot. And when you're talking about a 3-point game at the end, literally all of those small things add up in such a big way. But all it takes is like one guy to just do it. And nobody did it. To go 0 for 10 in your return and have how many turnovers did he end up with as well? Just the one turnover, had a really great block, but there were times. Here's another thing that happened, and Connor Happer pointed it out, and I saw it with other guys as well. I know Berke is also not shooting really well, and he went 0 for 10, but he's wide the hell open some of these times. And I saw Raleigh look at him and didn't pass him the ball. Jawan looked at him with 20 seconds on the shot clock and said, "Nah, I'm pulling from here anyway." Like, just offensively, if you're not going to pass to the open guy, the defense doesn't have to move, and then you're taking a garbage shot anyway. So that's not helping anyone either.
Yeah. Yep. Just looking at it. Bear K 0 for 10. Jawan 2 for 13. Andrew Morgan 0 for 3. He didn't even try, actually. And Connor Season 1 for 5, including 0 for 4 from 3. So that tells the story. That tells the story. I don't know, guys. Beyond that, like, there isn't a whole lot more to say. The defense was great. I mean, it feels like a consolation prize at this point. What are you going to say? And that was something I think that was the problem against Penn State. They played no defense whatsoever, and the offense got going in the second half, but they couldn't get a stop to save their life against Penn State. And then you hit a team like Michigan, who racks up high field goal percentage. They're one of the better field goal percentage teams in the entire nation. And somehow this team shuts them down by flat out hustle, scramble, doubling on the big men, giving them problems, bouncing those rebounds around, and just wasted. It was, I mean, that's the thing, is we'll talk way less about the defensive performance because they lost, but it was unbelievable for Nebraska. You would have never dreamed that they would do this after what we saw last week against Penn State. Jacob, what are you thinking?
I'm watching a film breakdown of the last play. I'm being an absolute dork watching Ant Wright's film breakdown of the final play that he just of the Asian 3.
Oh, okay. So
when they were lined up for Michigan's lined up for the free throw, and Wolf isn't lined up, like he is behind the play for the possible transition defense. They only got one guy lined up, in the free throw line, in the free throw lane. Wolf and Cheddar are back, and they that impacted the transition. Sam Hoiberg is pointing at as Connor Esiason, for Bryce to pass him the ball for that open shot. But I didn't even notice in real time that Danny Wolf, the other 7-footer, just wasn't lined up on the free throw block for that free throw that missed and wound up in that transition look. But I mean, this game now, I mean, it's, at this point in the season, you don't want to, dissect every game play by play. You don't want to, think it's a home loss to a top 15 ranked team. And obviously it stings, but I mean, if I want to get a little coach speaky, their goals are still in front of them. They have 3 games left to play. 2 of them are in this building. 1 of them is on the road. I mean, their goals are there. The roadmap is, I mean, it's going to be, hold on to your ass. But there you have it is February. It is about to be March. And Nebraska basketball fans have a seat on the ride. And it may feel like it's about to be an uneasy ride. But compared to years past and this time of year where the Nebraska was scrapping and clawing to get to 500 in the Sam Griesel year, or, they had single digit wins and you knew they were going to play on Wednesday night in the Big Ten tournament. And that's that. The time to turn your keys in, turn the lights off. The season's over. There's plenty of worse positions to be in with 3 games left in the regular season. And, Nebraska has, you've got a seat on the ride. I don't know what direction it's going to go, how many up and downs it's going to be, but buckle up, because it's going to be interesting these last three.
I think if they play defense like they did tonight or close to what they did tonight, they'll win those 2 home games, pretty soundly.
Oh,
I don't know if they'll keep doing that, if they can duplicate that performance or anything close to it, because they've been up and down on defense too. But if they can do that part of it, that's the part I'm worried about against Minnesota and Iowa in particular.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly, you just echoed what, Fred Hoiberg said about, if they can bottle up that defensive edge, that defensive effort, that they'll be just fine in these last three. And, you, Fred Hoiberg, handshake meme, Jack, similar, echoing similar sentiments as the head coach. And, it'll be, I mean, I don't want to look ahead to the final game of the year, but Iowa's going to look a little different without, Freeman, at the end of the year. Minnesota, I could talk at length about my thoughts on the state of Minnesota basketball, but then, Ohio State, you saw them up close already. It's the second of a double play, and, it's nothing, there's no easy nights in the Big Ten, but there's no like Death Star teams left from, this point out. You went up against a team that had 2 7-footers where one plays in the post and one handles the ball. You're not going to see many teams that look like that the rest of the way. There isn't, I'll just make the analogy again, the rest of the regular season and probably in your first game in Indy, there isn't a Death Star lurking, waiting to eviscerate your planet. You just got to play your game, stick to your principles, and your margin for error remains paper thin, but what the recipe is for success.
Vladislav Golden's second worst offensive game of the year. Wolf, let's see, at least in terms of points scored, it was Golden's second worst, and Wolf has had, probably Wolf's, just eyeballing it here, his third or fourth worst game of the year offensively. So Nebraska did it. I mean, Nebraska did what they needed to do against those two guys, which we thought was the matchup nightmare defensively. Real quick thing, and I check if we got anything in the Discord. I know that's been going on here tonight. We've been just trying to get the back and forth pretty seamless here. I can't believe I'm going to say this, and it's not even a critique of Bryce Williams, but I still sometimes wonder how it's like he couldn't have done more, could he? Well, there's a part of me that's like, he wasn't getting his points still driving, right? It still wasn't driving and getting fouled. And I don't know if that's, I still feel that's like somehow underutilized. He's better kind of on those long range twos and shooting from outside than I actually thought he was going to be this year. He's like, that's become the crux of his scoring. And I didn't really think that it would. I thought he would be a volume scorer, but I thought a ton of that would be driving. That's not really what it was. He had a couple of open dunks. Yeah, he got some rebounds and stuff, but that's the odd thing to me about how Bryce is doing this. Jacob and Caleb, he's not doing it in the way that I thought he would when he went off. I thought he'd get more free throws too. Yeah,
I mean, I would tend to agree with you. Yeah, you got to 4 for 4, and I know 2 of them were late when Michigan fouled up 3. He drew 6 fouls, but only got to the line 4 times, and that plays into the whole discussion about that last play too. But it was definitely, I mean, he came out, hit his first 3 threes, and it's just like, where the hell has this been? And then when he gets that mid-range pull-up going, I mean, that's tough. It's lethal, but it's analytically the toughest shot in basketball, and we've heard all about how you don't want to be taking those shots, and some teams will gladly give them to you. But I mean, it's been an interesting season for Bryce Williams, to say the least. And he goes over 1,000 points in just 2 seasons at Nebraska, and he joins a club that I think was just Petaway, Palmer, and was there a third person? I didn't see the full. It was like.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see the whole list either, but it's impressive.
I saw Petaway and Palmer for sure. So I mean, he's
2 years.
Right up there. And those guys were all league guys.
Yep.
May not have been first team, but they were all league guys. So I mean, we're Big Ten postseason awards are going to be a shit show, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. It's been very, just when you think what you're going to get from Bryce, mean, he still finishes with 26. Took 21 shots to get to 26. But yeah, like you said, Jack, the way he did it, the way he went about it, it was just not what you'd expect.
Like, I want to see what he can do if he commits to driving and getting to the line more often, mixed like with that as well. Caleb, I don't know if you got anything to hit on that, but just sort of what do you think now about this team going forward? And I know we'll get to our Friday show with our NCAA tournament confidence ratings, but how has this impacted the way that you think about the chances in the last 3 games?
Just that it's a middle said. You still have everything out in front of you. You're still looking at trying to get 2 more wins. You have to beat Minnesota. You have to beat Iowa, and then you try to go get that Ohio State game. If you get that, you're probably in really, really good position. I'm the same way with that you guys are with Bryce. I'd love to see a lot more driving, but at the same time, God, he's so good at that mid-range pull-up. So it's hard to be like overly critical of that part. Here is one stat that we did not get to. Jared Burson on Twitter tweeted this out. He does college basketball 1 points per possession. Nebraska was 0.67 points per possession. That's the first Division I game all season with both teams being below 0.75 points per possession.
Cool.
That it was historically bad across the nation.
Wow.
Yeah, that really wraps it up, doesn't it, Jacob?
I want to wrap it up looking ahead to the Minnesota game. I want to get out in front and share my favorite Big Ten basketball stat that I'm going to share all the time until it's no longer true. Minnesota has never won a basketball game in this building that we are currently sitting in. They are 0 for 5 all time at Pinnacle Bank Arena. The last time Minnesota won a basketball game in Lincoln was at the Devaney Center in February of 2012 when Minnesota was coached by Tubby Smith and Nebraska was coached by Doc Sadler.
Dang! Wow! They should at like halftime have an all PBA Minnesota loss reunion. Like bring back all the Gophers from like 2013 to 2025 who were part. Bring little Patino in. He can be part of it, and like bring them all in and have a cool get together for all of them, like a banquet over at the club across from Memorial Stadium. I think that'd be a cool gesture.
Yeah, I figured you'd appreciate that stat. The first thing that comes to mind is the Richard Pitino. I'm really, 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 really disappointed in the way that game ended. Press conference, I forget what year that was, but yeah, a little food for thought. Minnesota has not won a basketball game in the city of Lincoln in 13 years. Food for thought.
And it'll be on Saturday. I don't know what the crowd will be like now because they had the crowd in it. God, it had every ingredient tonight. It had every freaking ingredient. And they had 2 shots that would have taken the roof off the place. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. You had both of despite all of the problems, the defense kept them in and they got 2 great shots by their 2 best shooters. As good a looks as they're going to ever get in those situations. And those freaking balls just missed. And it's so frustrating. It's such a missed opportunity. And you hope they can pick up the momentum. Crowd can get behind them against Minnesota. And Jacob, Minnesota's been playing well, right? So as probably as good as they have been all year at this point, of course, when they come into Lincoln. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll short thought on Minnesota. That's a credit to their coach for getting that team to play, given their NIL situation, given how much their roster was forked over. They had guys who transferred out to go to Tulsa because they could get better NIL from Tulsa than they could from Minnesota basketball. So that's a credit to Ben Johnson for that team not being in the cellar. They've been playing well. They just went out to the West Coast and swept the LA schools. They're doing a lot better than expected before the season, and Ben Johnson's getting those dudes to play. So we'll see how it looks on Saturday afternoon.
By the way, okay, sorry, I keep saying we're going to end, and I'm not. Am I wrong? Am I being a homer when I say the officiating was completely, it was rough. It was really rough tonight against Nebraska, or am I just a homer and I can't see I don't have the ability to see these things objectively.
I mean, it was pretty rough. I don't know how I missed Kelly Pfeiffer and DJ Carstensen being 2 of the 3 officials tonight. I would have definitely put out the ref show APB before the game if I was paying attention, like to warn people of what could possibly be coming. I would have put up the bat signal. That's on me for not putting up the bat signal. I was asleep at the wheel.
I would have liked to known.
So that was pretty. And that's I hand up. I will fully admit I should have put up the ref show bat signal. But
Biff, I hope you are being. I hope so bad you're just being trolling right now. And he's a ref, and you can't. I mean, first of all, Biff, it was off his thumb. You may not have had the replay. It was off his thumb. You guys see it was off his thumb. Like it wasn't. It was clear it was off his thumb. Yeah, I mean, that changes the game. That changes the game, obviously.
I haven't seen the replay yet. I did meet Biff tonight, though. So shout out, Biff. Good to meet you tonight.
All right, let's end the show. Great job, everyone. Maybe they'll win Saturday. Michigan 49, Nebraska 46. Coming up on the I-80 Club. Whatever this. I-80 Live, I think, Wednesday night. And then Caleb and I are back Friday, right? For Nebrasketball brunch. And then the day after it'll be another game day. Hopefully erasing all the memories of this terrible, terrible, sad, missed opportunity night. Until then, we bid you adieu. Thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe, if you would, to the YouTube page you're watching this on. It helps make it possible for us. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye.